Welcome everybody, and welcome to our afternoon session. Today we have Alamay Maihu Getachew talking about warmers, fillers and coolers. And as we can see from his information on the slides, which you can pick up later, there he has quite a lot of interest and a lot of experience in different kinds of contexts. So he's going to be talking to us about this topic. And just to say that next Friday, this coming Friday on the 22nd, we will do a follow-up session. And Michelle is going to put links to the Telegram group, the Telegram teachers group in the session, as well as the teacher education group as well for people who are teacher educators. So I'm going to pass over now to Alex, who's going to talk to us about warmers, fillers and coolers. Over to you.
Thank you, Steve, for the wonderful introduction. Hello, everyone. Good evening.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello. Today I would like to discuss about warmers, fillers and coolers with you. And because when I took an online course a couple of months ago, I found out that there's one interesting part of the course, which was talking about warmers, coolers, and also, warmers, fillers, and coolers. And I thought, like, I have to share this with my fellow teachers because it's very important in order to have very pleasant and interactive classroom. And that's why I want to share with you. So getting back to the point, why we need to have warmers, fillers, and coolers. But before that, I would like to tell you the objectives of today's session. So in the first part, we will explain warmers, fillers, and coolers. And also we see why they should be used in language classrooms. And also we will discuss the features of warmers, fillers, and coolers. And they have these three activities have different features in common, and also they have their own unique features, and we will discuss that. And we will also look at different samples of warmers, fillers, and coolers, which can be used in with our learners in the beginning, with beginner level and advanced learners. And then at the end, we will have a reflection session, and we put a final thought on that. That would be the end of today's session, and I hope we will be enjoying it together. Okay, now let's go to the overview. Yes, an effective language classroom should be thoughtfully designed and planned learning platform with various activities, resources, and that are engaging and interacting activities, which in turn develop the learner's language skills. And also they help to have interactive and engaging language classrooms where our students can use English to the fullest. And one might ask the question, how we can create engaging and interactive language classroom. Obviously, there are certain ways to achieve this. And one effective way of having interactive and engaging classroom is using simple, short, engaging and interacting activities that consider learners' age and language level and other backgrounds as well. So warmers, fillers, and coolers are categorized under these types of activities, and we will see what warmers, fillers are, coolers. Okay, next slide, please, Gary. Okay, now, participants, I would like you to write your viewpoints on warmers, fillers, coolers. What do you know about these three types of activities? Please write it in the chat, or if you want to speak, you can raise your hand. In the reaction button, you have raised hand so that we can hear from you. So we would give the chance for those of you who want to speak, or you can write your answers in the chat. What are fillers, coolers, warmers? What do you know about these activities?
So can you see the chat, Alex? Karen has
I can see the chat.
comment
Yes.
in.
Okay, so Karen, yes, Karen, activities that engage students so that they are ready for the lesson. Perfect. So they engage students and they can be ready when we provide them different sorts of activities. Yes, hello from Ethiopia. You said they are like pre, mid, and post to me. Exactly. Yes, this could be described as a pre, mid, and post. Or instead of post, we would say the end of the session activities. That's wonderful.
Elsie had put her hand up. Did you want to say something, Elsie? Do you want to unmute yourself?
I just wanted to say that warmers are the beginning of a lesson, just like the previous speaker said. Fillers come in between to fill the gaps, to close up the gaps. And then coolers appear at the end, activities at the end, almost towards the end of the lesson.
Exactly. Well done. Well done. And Tesfaye also said, I think there are activities to change the pace of teaching and learning. Very short and interesting activities. Well done. Now let's see what warmers, fillers, and coolers are. Okay, so warmers, fillers, and coolers, as you said, they are very short activities, 5 to 10 minutes activities, used to engage learners in the beginning of a lesson, to fill time during a lesson, that means in the meantime of our lesson, or to end the lesson on a positive note. And warmers, fillers, coolers, they encourage students to talk and have fun and require little preparation to use. So we don't have to bother about how we have to prepare these activities. We don't have to take that much time because they are very simple, quick, and also engaging activities. And I think they are both interesting for both the learners and the teachers as well. And they create engaging and interesting classroom activities. Very interesting point here about warmers, fillers, coolers. As we know, language classroom has to be engaging and interesting. That would help students to speak the language freely and confidently in the language class. So that these type of activities would create an interesting and engaging classroom activities. And next. So like we said, they are short, minimum, ideally 5 to 10 minutes. They also have a fun feature, or they are fun and engaging. They are simple to explain. And we make sure that we have to explain the instructions for these activities in a simple language manner so that it wouldn't be complicated for the students to understand what they have to do with the activities. And they also support classroom. Next slide, please. Okay, they support classroom routines, which in turn allow learners to learn vocabulary items and grammatical structures. So when we come to creating classroom routines, they are very much important aspects of language teaching, classroom routines. So what are these classroom routines? Let's say, for example, when you start the class, you can start by saying, my favorite animal is cat. I love cat because they are very friendly and cute animals. I have a cat. And then students will do this activity every day, maybe for 6 or 7 sessions, so that they would adapt the way how to say I love something by saying my favorite animal. And they also practice by using this classroom routine. The learners could also develop their critical thinking and logical reasoning skills. And also they develop their language speaking skills and listening as well. So there are so many ways of classroom. There are so many classroom routine activities, including the one I told you. And these warmers, coolers, feelers would also provide us so many activities that could be considered as classroom routines. And some activities like warmers, feelers, coolers, some of them can work either, some activities can work either warmer, feeler, or cooler, or for all. So one activity might be specifically fit for the warmer or feeler or cooler, but also there are other activities. They could come as a warmer or a feeler or a cooler. And some activities are more suited to either beginners, intermediate, or advanced level, or also they can also use, they can also, um, there are also some kind of activities that work with all language level learners. So they are a kind of dynamic, they have a dynamic nature, flexible nature, so that we can use them interchangeably, either a warmer or feeler or cooler, but at the same time, we can also use them in different language level learners, for beginners, for advanced learners, or for intermediate learners levels. Okay, next. Okay, here we have with the matching activity for you, for our participants. I would like you to write your answers in the chat box. So there are number 1, number 2, number 3, warmers, feelers, and coolers. And also there are definitions of warmers, feelers, and coolers from A to C. So I would like you to match them with their respected definitions and write your answers in the chat. Okay, yes, A is number 3. Karen, number 3, A. These activities are used at the end of the lesson. Coolers. Yes, exactly. They help consolidate round of a lesson, leave students happy and upbeat, feeling as if they have both learned and had a good time. They could be adapted to revise. Yes, well done. Tesfaye. Great. Number 1 is C. Exactly. They are just the way how they sound, warmers. Like when we do physical exercise, we do the warming activity first. That means it would come at the beginning of the sporting activity. Just the same as that, in our classroom, we can use warmers just to create an interactive classroom ahead, so that they are used in the beginning of a lesson as an icebreaker activity. They are also used to introduce a topic, vocabulary items, or themes of a lesson. Interesting. Yes, Gila, Tare Gabriel. Yes, got it right. You got it right. And exactly. Okay, so what are warmers? These activities are very much useful to have upbeat and happy classroom end. They could be adapted to revise certain grammatical structures. They could also be used to consolidate the topic, the lesson of the topic at the end of the lesson, so that the students will leave the class with something understanding. And the teachers, we could also use these activities to check our learners' understanding of the day's lesson. And when it comes to fillers, fillers are quick and easy language games to plug a time between other activities. They are also used to change the pace of the lesson in the middle of a lesson. That means, let's say we have planned a session, and then we have done something in the middle of the top in the middle of the class, and we still think that we still have more time left so that we can fill that time gap by providing our students a filler activity, which is very interesting. And then the students will also have the interest to continue with the class. Okay. Now, next, please, Gary. Warmers, fillers, and coolers with beginner learners. So when we come to the beginner learners, mostly they are children. And at some point we have adults like immigrants who are studying the language after they get adult, so that they could be considered as beginner learners. For these beginner learners, we have to use easy activities, use simple instructions and terms so that learners could understand our instructions easily. And if beginners are young learners, use more game-like activities, because young learners, they love games and they love being able to compete with other students. So that warmers, fillers, and coolers with beginner level learners have this type of features. Next, please. Yes, warmers, fillers, and coolers with advanced classes. Now here we can use more complex activities with more complex languages, vocabulary, or grammatical structures. And we also use varieties of activities as advanced level learners get tired of the same activity repeated. So let's say, for example, we have one interesting activity for our students. If they are young learners or they are beginners, they would enjoy it because they are just acquiring the language for the first time. But if our learners are matured enough or they have advanced level, so that they might need different sorts of activities. So instead of repeating same activity all the time, we have to vary our activities each and every time. And activities with advanced class learners would focus on developing learners' critical thinking and logical reasoning. There are so many ways of activities that we would be looking at later on. So I guess now we have a common understanding of what warmers, fillers, and coolers are, and also we see their features, what kind of features they have in common, and what kind of features they have separately or specific. And also we see what kind of activities we should use with advanced language learners, intermediate language learners, and also with beginners. Now, here is a time for you to participate actively in this session. Now, I want you to think about an activity. It could be a warmer, a filler, or a cooler that you use in your classroom and you found it very interesting to share with us. Now, we would like to give you the chance to speak if you want, or you can write it. And you should provide the following details in the chat. And the name of the activity, you can write the name of the activity, and you would write the level of the language learners, either they are beginner, intermediate, or advanced. And you could also describe their age level, either they are young learners or adult. And what is the objective of that activity you're going to share with us? And what target language are you going to teach with this activity? And the length, time length, how long does it take? The resources you use for this. And also you could share us the procedures of the activity. Now I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes to think and write your responses. Or if you want to raise your hand and share with us, we would like to hear while we are expecting you to write on the chat box, so that you can raise your hand and share us one interesting, either warmer, filler, or cooler. Gila, yes, Gila is raising his hand. I can see that.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Here,
Did I
here in
pronounce your name
Cameroon,
correctly?
Gila, yes, you pronounced it perfectly okay.
Thank you.
Here in Cameroon, in the southwest region precisely, in my school, for a warmer, especially in a Form 1 class, English language, when I want to work on sounds, I use there's an alphabet song I use, while there's a chart that has images. And this how the song goes. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, la, 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 la. So when I start that, the students get anxious, they stand, we sing together, and then that takes about 3 to 5 minutes. Then I go to the board. I now indicate on the board some images that have some particular sounds. And when they pronounce the way they usually pronounce, some will pronounce it wrongly, some will pronounce it correctly. And now that will now serve as a way for me to introduce the lesson. When that is done, when they wrongly pronounce, I correct their pronunciation and I introduce the lesson saying that we're going to have sounds in English and we're working on words that are maybe ending with ED, words that end with ED, having the T sound, the D sound, and the E sound. From there now, you see them anxious, curious, and now just tell them like to give you words that end with ED, which is a simple past tense. You hear them. They start naming, they start listing, and at the list, you get the funny pronunciations, and at one point you correct them as you go along, and then we fill the chart, and then from there we do sentences. We do some sentences, and later on we do a group presentation wherein the students have practiced in their own little 4 groups that I create, and after that, I call them to the board. I delegate each group a presenter, and they come to the board. They take my ruler, they indicate, and then they drill with their friends. And that's how it goes when I'm doing a language lesson on pronunciation.
So we can see that this is a perfect warmer activity for young learners, I would say.
Yes, for beginners.
That really aroused interest among the students. Very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you, Gila, for sharing us your experience. It's marvelous experience, I would say.
Thank
and
you,
I
sir.
hope other participants will also use this, including myself. Very interesting.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so we could see from the chat, Tesfaye Nagash, he shared us one thought here. It says, I usually use these activities when I start a class, especially to introduce students each other. So self-introduction, we would call it. I use it to know students' names and try to remember their names by associating what students said something fun in the classroom. I really don't usually use it as it has its own weakness, like time-taking, distracting students from the main task. Okay, so this could be used at the beginning of school year or as the beginning of a course, just to introduce students, ourselves with our students. Very good warmer, I guess. And Karen also shared as one cooler activity, Hangman. The activity's name is Hangman. It's just for the beginner level from 6 to 12 years old. You can use this activity to practice the alphabet at the end of the lesson. Okay, 15 minutes. Okay, so if it is cooler and you have 15 minutes, that would work. Otherwise, mostly coolers are the beginning of the session, so that it would be ideal if we use 5 to 7 minutes for coolers, I guess. You need a board and marker as a resource. Okay, Karen, if you write us more on the procedures, that would be great. Thank you for sharing that, though. And LC also say, guess the famous person. For intermediate, it's a filler, 5 minutes. And please share us the procedure as well. What kind of instructions you give for the learners to follow and to do the activities? That would be great. Do we have more people raising their hands?
We don't at the moment, but maybe it's easier for people to explain these activities if they talk about them, because it's a bit difficult
Yeah.
to put all the detail in the chat. So, Elsie,
Yeah.
do you want to say a bit more about how you guess the famous person? How does that activity work? Do you have sound?
Can you hear?
Yes, I can. I can. Elsie is right here. For guess the famous person, it can sometimes take a little bit of time. Let me be actual. It can take about 5 to 10 minutes. You give instructions that the learners listen to your instructions, and you give descriptions about a famous person. For example, I want to describe a famous person. I'll give them a clue. I'll give about 3 or 4 clues. He's from the United States of America. He's married. He has 2 children. If I really want to help, I can say he has been a former president. And I just ask the class to guess who he may be. So those may be 2 or 3 clues I give. And then if they want to ask a question, the question they must ask, my answer should be yes or no. So is he tall? Yes. Is he short? No. So I think someone can already have a clue to who I'm describing already. Anyone? Nobody?
Barack Obama.
Very good. Yeah. So that's how the game works. Yeah, so just to make them engaged, or sometimes I feel if I want to teach WH questions, I can use that as a filler, or maybe even a warmer at the beginning. You can go for a warmer and a filler. But sometimes, actually, the guess the famous person also raises interest in the lesson. So sometimes I use it as a filler, but most of the time I use it as a filler for my lesson when I'm teaching W8 questions with beginners and intermediate level. Thank you.
Interesting, Elsie. Thank you so much for sharing this. I guess by doing so, we can let the students to develop their asking question skills, or like using WH questions, like you said, and also they can also apply asking questions using verb to be's, like is, are, kind of questions. So, is he tall? Are they American? Or when you say, is it an animal? If you are talking about something like a thing, so that they could develop these speaking language skills, and also they could also use the correct structure of asking questions, I would say. Very interesting. Yes. Okay. Now I guess we don't have more responses. Now let's go to the next slide. Perfect. Here we have word sentence chain. And in this slide, you're going to read one activity, and then you have to identify whether this activity works as a warmer, filler, cooler, or for all of them. It might be for all of them. I want you to write your response on the chat. Now read it. It says, have students sit or stand in a circle. They have the first student say a word or a sentence, such as I like. Then have the second student repeat the sentence and add their own part to it. Repeat until everyone in the circle has recited the chain and added their part. You can steer it towards a certain topic by adding the first sentence in the chain yourself, or by having key vocabulary or target language written in the whiteboard, which students get extra praise for using. So, for example, the topic might be about nationality. Let's say you can say, I like Ethiopian. So the next student should repeat yours and add one more nationality. So you can say, I like Ethiopian and Sudanese, so that they could learn how to pronounce or how to say someone from a specific country by using IAN at the end, or SE, or these prefixes of identifying nationalities. And you could also use to teach certain items. For example, about fruits. If I say I like apple, the next one would say I like apple and orange. And the third one should recite the two and add one more, their own fruits, so that I like an apple, an orange, and a banana. So that they would also promote the use of articles here, a and on. So what kind of activity do you think is this activity? You can write it in the chat, or you can also speak. Any responses? I hope I am heard. Yes, Sally, great. I could use this to teach conjunctions and pronunciations as well. Exactly. For the advanced level from 10 to 13 years old. If I want to teach a grammar, so who said this? Muluh Linda. For the advanced level learner, 10 to 13 years old, if I want to teach grammar lesson on indirect speech, I could just send a student to go call for another only in class. When they do that, I focus on the words he will use and write on the board, and we continue from there. Okay, Tesfaye, he said, I think the first one works for warmer and filler. Okay, yes. The second activity is also work for both warmer and filler. Actually, the second one is the explanation of the same activity. Okay. All right. Now let's see for which activity this could fit. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Perfect. Okay. First, warmer and filler. Warmer, very good. Okay. Now let's see the next slide. Yes, this activity can be good as a warmer, filler, or cooler to get your learners engaged to the session. So that in order to introduce your your topic, you can use it as a warmer, or if you still have a time gap in the middle of your lesson, you can use also this activity as a filler. And just to make sure that learners acquire the required or the intended vocabulary items in the session, you could also provide this activity as a cooler. Perfect. Now let's go to the next activity. Pictionary. Okay, let's stop here. And I would like to ask our participants, what do you understand from the word Pictionary? What kind of activity do you expect from the word Pictionary? Can you write your answers or say something about the activity Pictionary? Okay. About pictures. Okay, about pictures. Yes, teaching aids like charts or projected images. Well done. Well done, Mulu. Well done, Gila. And Gary. Yes. Hi, Doris. Using visual aids. Yes, Doris, you're right. We use visual aids. So now let's see the description of this activity. Okay, now the same here. What you're going to do is you just read the description and tell us for which type of activity, for which type of activities this could fit, either cooler, filler, or warmer. Or you can read it yourself. So this activity is a combination of vocabulary items and pictures. That's why we call it Pictionary. Picture and dictionary, I would say, or vocabulary. So we put students into teams, give one person in each team a word on a card, and have them to try draw it while the rest of the team has to guess the word. So one of the group members will go to the whiteboard and draw the word, draw a picture that depicts the word in his hand or in her hand, so that the rest of their group members should guess what the word in their hand is. So when we do this activity, we make sure that we provide vocabulary items related to our lesson, that particular lesson we're teaching. So this can be great for making sure students really understand the meaning of the word. So I want you to guess for which type of activities does this fit, either cooler, filler, or warmer. Okay. For all activities, Tasfaya Nagash, yes, especially for the beginning of reading activities. Just to introduce vocabulary items, exactly. And Gila said warmer and filler. Okay. And Molu also said, I think it's a filler activity. Okay. Yes. As you said, it can work for all of them. But mostly in my experience, I use this as a good cooler activity just to check my learners' understanding of vocabulary items in the lesson and to make the end of the lesson cheerful, happy, and upbeat, because the students will be more encouraged to answer the questions based on they learn in that particular session. And also, it's a very great activity to engage students at the end of the class. But like you said, we can also use this as a warmer or as a filler as well. But most importantly, it fits for the cooler, but it doesn't mean that we don't have to use it for the other phases, like warmer or filler. Okay, now let's introduce you to the next activity. Alphabet words. Okay, now you read the procedures here, and you have to write your answer in the chat box. So this activity is a combination of, So alphabet words is you sit students in a circle and run through the alphabet from A to Z, with each student thinking of a word that starts with their given letters. This will be difficult once they get to Q, alphabet Q, or alphabet X. That would be somehow tough because we don't have that much word with these letters in English, especially with X. With Q, we have like quick and others as well. But for X, we might have difficulties. Okay, so what kind of language learners do you expect from this activity would enjoy? It could be for advanced, intermediate, or beginner level. And for which type of activities does it suit? For warmer, filler, or cooler? I want you to write your responses on the chat, in the chat box. Okay, warmer and filler. All right. Yes, this, Karen, you said it correct. This would fit for children, especially for beginner level. Gila, you said warmer and cooler for beginner. Exactly. Exactly. Warmer and filler for beginner. Perfect. Yes. Rashidat Sadiq, welcome. Yes, it's warmer. Very good. And obviously, alphabet games are more for beginner level students. Yes, Mullah, Linda, you said beginner level for warming and feeling the time gap. Exactly. You got it right. Now let's see the explanation for this. Yes, this can be good as a warmer to get your students thinking in English, but might be a little too distracting as a filler. I don't know why it is distracting, but it depends based on because it might be distracting because it's time taking, because you have to reach each and every student in the class. That's why it might be distracting. Otherwise, it's a very good, interesting activity for your learners to arouse their interest in the classroom. Okay. Yes, Tesfaye Nagash, you also said warmer and filler, it's usually for beginners. Yes, Christina, warmer for beginners, exactly. LC for warmer, perfect. So mostly, as you can see it, and as you said it, it's very good activity for warmer. It might be somehow a little distracting for filler, but you can also use it as a cooler, as a warmer mostly. Now let's see the next activity. Simon Says. I hope most of you are familiar with this activity. If you teach certain language level learners, this is a quick and easy activity that gets your students moving, gives them simple commands to follow with pointers if they don't do an action when you don't say Simon Says before the command. As your students get more confident, you could even get them to take turns being Simon. So as a teacher, you will stand up in front of your students and you said, Simon said, sit down. They will sit down. And Simon says, stand up. They stand up. Simon says, touch your ear. They touch their ear. And you say, touch your eyes. They touch their eyes. If Simon doesn't say that, they don't have to do that performance. That action. So that they have to be careful that the instruction or the command comes from Simon. If it is from the teacher and they do the action, that student would be disqualifying from the game. So what I mostly do with my students is I just let them sit. If they are disqualified from the game, they will sit all the time and they don't interact with the game. And then at the end of the day, we might have one student followed the instructions carefully, and that student would be the winner. But in order to get the winner, if it takes you time, we can stop it somewhere and appreciate the ones who were very good at attending the instructions carefully. So like I said, if I say, Simon said, right, they write. Simon says, sit down, they sit down. And if I say, say okay, they don't have to say okay because Simon doesn't say that. They have to say okay. This is a very good, interesting game. For which type of activity do you use this activity? For which type of the phases you use this activity and for which level? Okay, yes, I could see that activity could be used as a warmer or cooler. Okay. Filler. Yes, it's a filler. Simon says could be a filler in or Doris said Simon says could be a cooler and filler activity. I use it when my students distracted or when they are sleepy. Yes. So what kind of what level learners are they? Advanced class. Okay, Gila, you said it for advanced classes. Do you really agree with this? The rest of you? Gila said we could use Simon Says for advanced class. Okay, Emma, you said you can also change the activity. The loser should say, oh, I got it wrong, and becomes the next one to become Simon. Oh, yes. So that the loser will be taking the Simon's position. So that maybe all of the students want to take Simon's position. In that case, we might have distracted activity. I don't know, because, what if all the students want to become Simon? They purposely do or lose the game. Okay, great activity for a filler activity for all levels. Mulu Linda said this. Starter, elementary, and pre-intermediate. Okay. To be honest, I use this activity with my primary students from up to 5th graders. because this Simon Says stuff is somehow interactive game, I know, but it is more of lovable by children, so that this activity works great as a warmer, filler, or cooler. As you can see, potentially have students act out commands related to the vocabulary they have been learning. Yes. So we also see the next activity. Yes, 2 truths, 1 lie. If your students already have a reasonable amount of English, have them write down 2 truths and 1 lie about themselves. Then have your students mingle and say their sentences so others can guess which statement is a lie. Once students understand the point of the game, they will love trying to trick each other. So while doing this activity, your students will develop skills of asking questions, answering questions, and also when they guess, they would apply phrases of opinion, asking and giving. So they might say, in my point of view, you were not born in the US. So this is their guess. So they are practicing these opinion giving phrases. And also they could also practice questioning. So they say, am I right? Am I wrong? Kind of responses would improve speakings in the classroom, so that this would lead in interactive and engaging classroom. Okay, so what kind of activity do you think is this activity? Is it a warmer, filler, or cooler? Okay, so Emma, you talked about the previous one that Simon Says. If everyone wants to become Simon, the better chance they get to practice their vocabulary. Yes, you're right. But the problem is, as we see, these games have like a limited amount of time. We might not have enough time to do other activities in the classroom if we really take time to give the chance for all the students to become Simon, I guess. But yes, as long as you have the time, you can do it. Okay, these two truths and 1 lie would work with as a cooler for intermediate classes. Yes, we can use it for intermediate classes. We could use it as a filler and cooler. Gila said. Karen, you also said the activity can be used as a filler. Yes. Yes, Celestine, warmer or cooler. Yes, Mullah, you said filler or cooler. Get to know you. Fantastic idea. Okay, Emma. Perfect. Warmer, filler, and cooler, pre-intermediate. Exactly. So we can use this activity with pre-intermediate, intermediate, and advanced level learners as well, because it gives you more chance to get to know each other. And this activity is mostly appropriate for introduction of a course or at the beginning of school year. That would be very interesting to have interactive classroom like Tasfaya mentioned earlier. Okay, so now let's see. This could be what kind of, is it warmer or filler? Now let's go to group quiz, and then we will see. Okay, group quiz. What kind of activity do you think is group quiz? Yes. Group quiz is engaging and somehow competitive activity, and it's also a group activity or a pair work. Each group should prepare 5 questions to be done by other groups members. You let your students to form a group, and then they have to prepare questions based on the topic of the lesson. And then those questions by a particular group should be answered by other group members. And also, we can also extend this activity by giving the answers to the third party or to the third group so that the answers would be marked by the third group, so that this creates interlink between groups. So pay attention while circulating the papers in order to not to give the same paper with the same group, so that we have to swap questions among the class. Okay, Gary, more contents of the topic, more contents of the slide. Yes, good. So now you read this. What kind of activity, or for which activity do you think this would suit? Group quiz. And for which type of language learners? The level of the language learners, I would say. Okay, we could use it as a filler. That could be used as a cooler activity, Karen. Okay, and for intermediates, perfect. Gila, you said you can use it for filler. All right. And for intermediate level learners. Okay, so Gila, Karen, Tasfaye, you are actively participating. Thank you so much. Mullah as well, you are participating actively. Thank you. Mullah, you said it is used at the end of the lesson, which is as a cooler. Exactly. Now let's see the explanation. What does it say? This activity can be used as a cooler to check learners' understanding of the lesson before they leave the class. So this is mostly for cooler. A very good cooler activity, because you teach something and you just want to make sure that learners understand that lesson in that particular session, so that you just provide the group work. And this group work would be a group quiz. Each group prepare 5 questions based on the lesson, and then other group will be answering the question, so that we will see how much the learners understand the topic. I hope you found this activity interesting, just to leave the class upbeat and happy. And also the teacher will also use this activity to make sure learners acquire the target language, or the lesson, the topic, I would say. Okay, next, please. Now, here we have more activities to try out in our classrooms. There are many more warmers, coolers, fillers in the coming slides. So one is throw and catch. You will read this. We will share you the material. And what about the other one? Yes, find someone who. This is also another interesting activity. This can be used as a warmer. And we have error mingling, very interesting activity. You will see how the procedure looks like, and I hope you will apply it in your classroom. I hope you try this and you will find your class interesting. Think, pair, share, very interesting activity. Mostly at the beginning of the class, in order to grasp the students' attention, to arouse interest, and also to check the learner's background knowledge about the topic you're going to teach, so that you can prepare kind of brainstorming questions that would lead students to practice it by think, pair, share activity. And define a word. Yes, very interesting, this one as well, especially after you deliver a lesson or in the middle of the lesson. You can use this activity as a filler or cooler, mostly as a filler, I would say. Okay, next, please. Okay. I hope you will be shared this material.
Yeah, I don't think we've got time for this final task, but yes, the idea is that the PowerPoint with all of these materials on will get shared along with the video, maybe even tomorrow, but more likely at the beginning of next week. And then the plan is to have a discussion on the teachers' Telegram group next Friday. So you can bring along all of your ideas next Friday, and you can discuss them further with Alex and other colleagues who weren't able to attend this evening. So I'm just putting the link to, if you're not members already of the Telegram group, so next Friday at 1700 GMT, we'll continue the discussion. and hopefully people will be able to bring along more of their ideas. I think Alex wants to say a few more words just to finish off, but I just don't think we have time for this particular discussion now. We'll run over too much, and we've always got the Telegram group, so keep people excited and in terms of different activities. Is that okay, Alex?
Yes, please. I would love to give chances for participants to say something, but I don't think we are enough time for that. We are running out of time. But just to give final thoughts, we could go to the final thoughts slide. And if we have still time, we could give chance to participants to share their ideas on the...
Maybe we can do one or two. We've probably got a few minutes to do one or two, so...
Okay, so let's give a chance for the participants to say something about these activities. You can raise your hand as long as we don't have, we don't have time to write, so that it's better to speak. If you raise your hands, Gary will give you the chance to speak.
Yeah, if anybody wants to comment or maybe offer another idea, or you can save them up for next week. Maybe you can try them out in your classes. So Emma, yes, Emma Majoko, would you like to say something? Yes. So if you unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Yes, Emma, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I enjoyed the warmers, the feelers, and the coolers, but I think, well, I came a little bit late, so I missed out on a lot. I hope that you would share the slides later. I just wanted to share one of my favorites, and it has to do with, I just put some numbers on the board, and just one word. For example, I can put November, I can put 3, I can put 5, and then I'll ask the learners to ask me a yes or no question about those numbers. So it's either true or it is not true. So that's the way it goes. And if, for example, I put the month November, they could ask me any question that has to do with November. For example, I was born in November. So the question is, were you born in November? And I will answer either yes or no.
Okay.
So as a warmer and as a get to know you, it is a fantastic activity for learners of English to learners of English as a foreign language. It's fantastic.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much. I hope you will share this slide, please. Thank you.
Of course.
The slides will be shared, yes. So there's a question. So one of the things that happens during these webinars is that Steve does a summary in the Telegram discussion area. So we've got a question there that Steve has posted from Henrietta in the Telegram group. Can we say there are clear-cut differences between the three, warmers, fillers, and coolers? Is there a clear-cut difference between the three? Because we've said quite a lot of them perhaps can be used in many different contexts. So is there a clear-cut difference, Alex?
Okay, yes. I mean, the clear difference between these three is warmers, as the name indicates. We mostly use them at the beginning of the lesson, so that there are some specific warmers. They can be used only at the beginning of the lesson. So, for example, the way I explained about think, pair, share, if it is the activity that you want to use it in your classroom, so that it gives a chance to the students to recall their prior knowledge on that topic, and also it creates arousal interest among the class, so that warmers are specifically to bring the students into the classroom routine. I mean, in the classroom mood. And when it comes to fillers, as the name indicates, we have sometimes planned activities, but if we finish earlier, so that we can use that time gap by using fillers. So that is a specific feature of fillers. And coolers, as you can see it, when we really want to leave the class interesting and also upbeating, so that coolers are very much interesting activities. So that, like I said, they have commenting, lots of commentings, but also they have specific features that, as we cannot use some activities of warmers not as fillers and coolers, and vice versa.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure that Henrietta will be pleased about your answer. So as I say then, so that's Henrietta, who's currently in the Telegram group. And so next Friday, we have a continuation of the discussion. So Alex will be there, hopefully other colleagues, and you'll have had a chance to look at the video, refresh your memories of it. Other people will be able to have looked at it, and you'll be able to download the slides. So just let Alex finish with his few final thoughts, and then we'll stop.
Yes, please. So the final thoughts: warmers, fillers, and coolers get your class ready to use English. Because at the end of the day, the goal of language classrooms is to help students speak English, either in the classroom or outside the four walls, so that these activities give us one chance to let students speak or use the language in the classroom. And as you can see, based on their features, use up spare time when students move through the material too quickly, like you give assignments, or classrooms, and then quick students might finish very fast, so that you could give for that specific student a filler activity that could be done as a group or individual, so that, or if the whole class finishes the activity that you give ahead of time, so that we can prepare a filler activity to gap that spare time. Like I said, if the student finishes their work ahead of time. And we also see here, these activities give your students a few moments of fun at the end of your lesson, if they are coolers. So by learning about this type of activities and using them in your lessons, you will increase your students' enjoyment of the lesson and give yourself another vital to keep your classes running smoothly and interestingly. And I hope you found this presentation interesting, and you might be using some of the activities in your classroom right away on Monday when you get back to school. And thank you so much. And I also use some of the pointers that you have raised, like the activities you shared with us, in my classrooms for sure. I really enjoyed them. Thank you so much.